produced by AE Media.
You're welcome to a special edition of your favorite sports show, Kwese Sports Xtra. My name is Fiifi Anaman. We're here at what Ghanaians love to call a coded location to speak to perhaps the biggest personality in Ghana at the moment, per what has been trending over the last 2 weeks or so. Let's speak to Anas Aremeyaw Anas, the brain behind the investigative documentary number 12, which delved into perceived rot at the Ghana Football Association as well as the sporting terrain in general. Thank you very much for joining us, Anas. So I guess we have to start from what is happening currently, what has grabbed the entire globe's attention, the World Cup. Have you been following it, and what are your general thoughts and impressions?
I have not been following the World Cup. I'm naturally not a football person, so I don't watch football, so I don't know what's happening.
So it's safe to say that the football phase in your career happened with number 12 and you have no interest in delving into it again?
The only thing I know is that Hassan Kotoko in Olympics, they play their matches. Then the Black Stars also go and play at African Cup of Nations. The rest of them I don't know. So I have no knowledge of those other champions and all those.
Right, fair enough. Now let's jump straight to the point with regards to number 12. Now, the biggest question that has emerged from it is why you didn't go the extra mile. A lot of people say a journalist of your repute, a journalist of your level of courage and determination to see it through the end should have, in fact, taken the investigation further from where Mr. Nyantechi asked for the bribe. Now, did you not do that because of the fact that you were handicapped resource-wise, or because you wanted to keep it as a football investigation purely?
Well, I think that first of all, before every journalist set out to do any story, you know exactly what the story is about. It is true that when we do stories, tangential issues are likely to pop up in our investigation. But if you're a focused journalist, you know when to say yes to something and when to say no to something. Look, this was a pure football story. That's what it is. Don't forget that we started from coast teams, went into the Premier League, looked at referees. In Ghana alone, we had 77 referees. In Africa, we had 23 referees. So clearly, this was a football story. The likes of the Kwese Nyantechis who are in this film actually are not, football is not played by one person or it's not managed by one person. I looked at an entire system. I looked at the Ghana Sports Authority. I looked at even portions of the Ministry of Sports. So it's wider than people think. It's just that we have a personality in there who perhaps everybody looks up to. So that seemed to have overshadowed the gravitas in this whole thing. But my focus was to look at football. Now let's come to the practicality of what you said. So you do an investigation, somebody is claiming he wants to take $15 million, he wants to take another $12 million and all that. I mean, clearly it was something that we couldn't have afforded because it was not within our scope. More importantly, we did football and we got football. When it's time to do politics, we know what to do. It's not the same. You understand? Look, what we do is not a split-second decision of just go fishing. Not at all. We never pick the cameras to go fishing. Before we do it, a lot of planning goes into it. So you don't just get up one day and you say, hey, this person is this, so go do it. First of all, you need your prima facie evidence of crime being committed by that person. And when your prima facie evidence is ready, then you also ought to know that undercover would always be the last resort. Then again, you have to think of the legal implications. Are you invading people's privacy? What is public interest about what you are doing? All this must fall into proper perspective before you decide to embark on an undercover operation. This particular sting got to where I was satisfied and I said, okay, I want to. If any day I decide to do anything else, it will come with a different approach.
Okay. So I've seen an interview of you on Al Jazeera where you said that before you go into an investigation, you do proper recce, which is reconnaissance, and sometimes it takes a long while. Now, the question I really want to ask at this point is, was Mr. Nyantichi one of the targets of this investigation? And also the fact that there have been a lot of unease about the motives for this investigation. Of course, from the film, and I've seen it many times, you said that it stemmed from issues such as May 9th and the people who died, issues such as the Brazil 2014 Commission of Inquiry. But many people seem to be suggesting that these are just smoke screens to hide a general motive of sort of a hatchet job on Mr. Nyantichi. Now, what do you say to this?
First of all, I don't know football. I don't know the enemies of Mr. Nyantichi. I know I did 77, and I knew 77 Ghanaian referees. They are no more, Nyantichi is not more human than they are. 23 African referees. Nyantichi is not more human than they are. As far as I know, this was clearly done based on evidence, prima facie evidence that I had obtained. And the prima facie came from you guys also. Because over the years, I realized that hard-working Ghanaian sports journalists had built strong dossiers around Kwese Nyantichi, and yet he always found a way of getting out of it. So I read a lot. I read copiously some of the publications, some of the sports programs. I looked at Joy FM's sports programs. I looked at City FM. I looked at their site one. I looked at all our TV, radio, TV3, and all of them. In fact, even TV Africa Sports. And I took my time and did my analysis and realized that, look, there were real issues about deals that had happened. I remember this GNPC issue and Atoa Boy's pronouncement on that about agency and all this I read. And so, I mean, he was the GFA president. He's a FIFA executive member. He's a number 2 person in CAF. What is better than that, having that in a football story? So, yes, people may have their perception about motive. Like I said, I don't know the enemies. I don't know football. I did my work, and I think that I did it as it should be done. And the work will stand the test of time.
So Mr. Nyantichi has responded to your investigation, a very long piece addressing various aspects of your piece. Now, of course, your organization, Tiger Eye, has come out with an official position, but how do you, as the person, the journalist, the mastermind behind this investigation, feel about the statement?
Oh my God. Look, we didn't start this work today. We've done many stories. And the reaction that I've seen from Nyantichi is the same. It's the same we saw from the judges. Cut and paste, what and what. But they will have their field day. Don't forget, within 48 hours of having sent my FIFA to petition, Nyantichi was banned. You think that the FIFA people are not serious people? You think they don't read? Look, let's not people think that we just get up and do what we do. Look, I could be sued. I could go to jail for what I'm doing. So I make sure that we take the right precautions. And look, it's not one person, it's a team. We have a team of lawyers who will go through every phrase that I put out there. So if Nyantichi thinks that this was one of those small things he can parry away, he should forget it. We are prepared. And forget not that, I always put my work out there for public scrutiny. I do not expect Ghanaians to take my work hook, line, and sinker. And that goes to the whole of Africa. I know that I've touched on sensitive nerves. And I know that questions will be asked. Don't forget that in the judges' scandal, I had 6-7 lawyers cross-examining me. And I stood that test. So the ingredients, as far as I am concerned, are very clear. And I can't wait for the day that Nyantechi will make that effort of dragging me to court. Don't forget, we will meet at FIFA. We will meet again at CAF. And if the GFA stands right, their disciplinary committee would meet us. The Ghana Police CID would meet us. And all these organizations have the raw footage given to them. So he shouldn't rush. He will have a field day. And then when he gets vindicated, everybody will see that I've done a shoddy job. But I can assure you, Nyantechi will not last for 5 minutes.
Well, clearly, this seems like something that will drag on for the next few months. Now, let's talk about your rebuttal.
No, wait, it will not drag.
You are very sure it will be killed off instantly?
Oh, this is a smoke screen. He just wants to put up some fight. He knows it. Look, you think that he just got out of the picture like that? He knows the ramifications. He is just backing. At the end of the day, Nyantechi will coil back to his room and keep quiet.
Interesting thoughts. Now, in your rebuttal, and there's this part that I really want to address. Now, you said in response to his allegation that a third party made a demand on him of $150,000 for you to drop the videos on him, you said, and I quote, "In fact, Tiger Eye is willing to provide undercover support to assist him, Mr. Nyantechi, find this third party should he extend an invitation to us again." Now, emphasis mine on again. Means Mr. Nyantechi has reached out to you before?
No. Again meant that some time back, and I've said this publicly, I had many years ago, he approached me to say that the GFA had an issue. Okay. And so they wanted me to look at it. Then he left. I never heard of him. This is about some 10 or 11 years ago.
Close to a decade.
Yes, close, even could be more than a decade. Now, what I said was to just tell him that, look, this is a lawyer and a senior colleague of mine. We don't speak in the vacuum. We back. The name of the game is evidence in law. That's what it is. You don't just speak. You don't just talk. Mention third parties without mentioning names. Who is supposed to protect who? You say I'm your problem. So if you claim my lawyer came to you to ask, what are you scared of? You can't mention the name of my lawyer. But look, I am not surprised. Like I told you, all this is normal. He wants to put up a face and see whether he will be accepted by the general public. It's fair, but it won't get him anywhere.
Interesting. Now, for the Nyantechi piece, which was like the ending of your film, and it took close to 40 minutes of the entire footage just to say how important it was to the narrative. Now, I want you to take us through the process of it. Of course, you mentioned that I think the voiceover in the film that you went in primarily to do a football investigation via the sponsorship offer. But what happened at a point was him sort of suddenly delving into political conversation, which was totally uncalled for from your perspective. I want you to walk us through the process of meeting him and having the interaction. Now, what was going through your head when you were going into it? Was it something specific that you were looking for?
To be honest, I had a shock of my life. You see, the Nyantechi I read about in the preparation I did to meet Nyantechi, I was very disappointed when I met him. Because things that I thought I would struggle to get, he gave it to me on the silver platter. I didn't have to do anything.
So it was an easy investigation from that perspective?
Because I picked him from the airport, took him to his room, and the first thing that comes out of his mouth is for him to give me a cut of a deal he's going to make to scam his own GFA. I was shocked because, look, I don't know how these things happen. That is when he started introducing the 20-25% bets. I'm like, wow, is that how? Then he will tell you, this is how we'll do it, and we'll share it this way, and everybody will be at peace. I was shocked. I didn't have to ask him anything. Then he goes back to introduce a company called Namax, where he said, with the Namax, we'll be able to fleece this money. Then again, he said that the company where the businessman was coming from, we shall take another 5% commission from the $15 million. So within 20-25 minutes of my sitting with Nyantechi, he had given me a lot of insight how to scam the GFA, and again how to scam the company that he was. And he needed me to buy into it because I had that relationship with the business people. So apart from scheming with me, when we got to the businessmen, the same scheme he put up, that's the scheme he put out there. Then from nowhere, he drops in the political bit.
And at that point, how did you feel? Were you startled? Or did you feel an urge to end it? Because, mind you keep talking about how you wanted to focus on sports and football.
Look, I asked myself, where is the law in him? Where is it? You just mention names and mention figures and call people, and I felt that he knew more politics than football. He demonstrated a lot of dexterity with which project was happening here and there. But hey, I was doing journalism, and so we put all that together. And again, in this age of you put everything out, people say, where is this part that I said? Where is that part that I said? We had no option than to bring that part. Also, we needed to afford the people of this country an opportunity to see what they have to see, and to give the president, the vice president, and the other ministers who have been mentioned an opportunity to also tell us what they know about it.
Interesting. Now, how did you feel? Let's take it back to that Tuesday in, I think it was late May, where, the president unexpectedly reported Mr. Nyantechi to the Criminal Investigations Department for having allegedly defrauded him by defrauded people by false pretenses, as well as, influence peddling. Now, did you feel that act by the president derailed your investigation, and did you feel betrayed, especially given what came out later from your mentor, Mr. Abdul Malik Kwekubako, that you had a gentleman's agreement with Nana Akufo-Addo not to act before the premier?
Look, every person who has done journalism knows that there's something we call the right to reply. And the right to reply was offered everybody who was necessary to get that right of reply. You couldn't, can you imagine if I had put out the name of the president without speaking to him, the name of the vice president without speaking to him? I think that it's a journalistic tenet that at every material moment, when people's names are mentioned, you give them the chance. Even Nyantechi, who said all those words, we gave him a right to reply, except that he rejected it. We gave the referees right to reply, they rejected it. So I think that the cardinal principle of giving people right to reply must be first and foremost for every journalist, no matter who you are.
Okay, so I guess it's safe to say that after interacting with these personalities, the president, the vice president, and everyone else who was given the opportunity of a right of reply, you formed your own opinions on what this story could have been.
Well, I don't know what this story could have been. What I know is that this story is a football story, and it achieved the purpose of a football story. When I'm going to do a political story, I know how to do it. If I'm going to do an environmental story, I know what to read and do an environmental story. What I don't want is people wanting to decide how my story should be. It's me. I'm the one doing an investigation together with my team, both local and international. We take decisions. We think about our budget. We take a lot of things into consideration before we decide. So we will not jump. Don't forget, we are talking about 17 African countries in this film. That's what it is. We are talking about 22 referees from various African countries. And because of Ghana, Nyantechi has mentioned the president of Ghana. We should stop everything that we are doing with all these countries and then chase Ghana. If we can, we will. Okay. And note that the man said he wanted 12 million. So he wanted us to give him the 12 million and follow him up to give to the president. If it is available, we will. Like I said, we decide what we want to do. We can understand people's sentiments. They want to see more. But the more is not done on a silver platter. It takes a lot of planning because there are legal implications. We could be sued. So before we decide to embark on anything, we would have done our proper recce to be sure that it's good enough to pursue. Once you begin to interview people, a lot can happen. So I wasn't surprised that a reaction had come. I wasn't moved. I kept my cool. I mean, if the president says I've written a statement to the police to investigate, apart from talking about his side, does it take the entire story away? It's the president of Ghana who has spoken. Has it affected Guinea? Has it affected Nigeria? Has it? So we have to, as journalists, we have to give room for some of these things to happen. And when they do happen, we need not panic. We should always look at the bigger picture. And so I still kept my focus. Of course, there will be some discomforts. Everybody would have expected, or my team really was looking up to the fact that, okay, let's wait until the 6th, where we'll have a statement of a kind from the office of the president. That didn't happen, but we don't really mind. It's normal. We get it sometimes. It didn't take anything away. And if it gave more publicity to the film, and it has its own positive and negatives.
Okay, so now there's also been a lot of speculation as to the sources of funding for this particular investigation. Now, even people who hail your work afterwards come back to say, this is really good work, but I wonder where he gets its money from. Now, is it fair to say, per what has happened, per what we know, that the BBC funded this investigation? Is that accurate?
BBC did a film about my film. That's what happened. But, I keep laughing when I hear issues of funding and all that. When I did the Usu Children's Home, psychiatric hospital, and all those, why didn't you ask me where the source of funding is coming from? Why? Because today it touches on politicians. You want to ask. I mean, we've done a lot of multinational collaborations over the years. We collaborate with them. Don't forget that I'm a publisher. By my own right, I'm able to afford. I belong to a newspaper that has been in this country for a very long time. Newspaper with businesses. I'm on my own. I have businesses that I run. And all of a sudden, we must believe that I cannot afford an investigation. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So, if I say I funded it, then what? I think that we should focus on the substantive issue. Unless anybody has evidence to show that I cannot fund it, let them come out with it. When our businesses were challenged, we came out with our reports, our financial reports. So people think that journalists cannot have money to fund their own projects. And so if a journalist does a strong story, it means that he has stolen the money. What is this?
Interesting. Now let's touch on a particular story that emerged from it that many people seem to have missed, because Mr. Nyantechi obviously was a big fish in this investigation. Now, Accra House of Folk fans are saying that your investigation was very unfair to them. They are saying that you used their club as a sort of a lab rat to prove your point, and that it has dealt a huge reputational damage to them that they might not be able to recover from. Now, how do you react to such assertions?
I love football people because I say this because I've watched a lot of House of Folk fans and even their club managers and complain about poor officiating in football, complain about the problems that the referees are giving them. I pop out. I clean the problem for you. And today you're asking me that why did I use your... Of course, I couldn't have used a team from Togo because it's not possible. And to be honest, I think that it's not only House of Folk that are used. There are many other teams that will come up. But you see, the story is still unfolding. Let us wait for everything to come together. Then after that, the people I have to apologize to, I will apologize to them and still remind them that I couldn't have used a Liberian team for this investigation. It's not possible. I know my friends in House of Folk, I know my friends in Kotoko and while all stars and all are calling me to say that why did you use our name and all that? But hey, I think it's an issue that can be looked at.
Now, another issue that's come up is the fact that people are saying you worked on both legs of the biggest fixture in Ghana, which is the Accra House of Kumasi Asante Kotoko rivalry. Now, this is a rivalry that has a dark history. May 9, 2001, 127 people dying. It's even in your film as one of the motivations for this investigation. People are saying, but Anas went into this investigation, he paid referees, he could have engendered another May night episode. Now, was he aware of the risk of having to recreate something that he even referenced in his own film?
Certainly not. I was clearly out there to make sure that we don't get the May knife again. That was very clear in my mind. People are entitled to interpret it whichever way they want. It's fair comment. But we watched the lines. That even though we paid, we had the evidence. And so if anything untoward was going to happen in a particular match, we stood in a position to call the police to act. Let me tell you one thing that people don't know. You see, before this undercover operation will go on, there's always a top police officer who is across all this. Always. One, because of security. Because we could get to went to one of the pitches and we nearly got lynched. Because you want a quick access for help. So we don't just go out there and start shooting. You have to make sure that you provide the necessary backups. And I tell you, there were senior police officers who were in on this and who sometimes had to help us carry through this. So yes.
Interesting. Now, what do you say to people who come at you with that accusation, if you will, of not uncovering corruption, but you create it? You are not uncovering something that is happening, but you create the conditions for it to happen. And then you come out and say, hey, this person is corrupt. And a lot of people have said that in the wake of this investigation, people have made specific references to the Sani Dara episode. They are saying perhaps is the most ambiguous piece within the whole structure. They are saying he may have a defense. In the light of all this, how would you respond to it?
He address Sani Dara's matter. I don't get him. What is his complaint? We come over to you. We ask you that we have a player. We want him to play the Black Stars. You start by saying that it is the player's own effort that will lead him to play. But you agree that you will help. Did I put those words into his mouth? I didn't do that. When we were going, we say, yeah, if you say you will help, take this money. We give it to you. You pass the money on to somebody. Then after that, you shake our hands and thank us. Then you turn around to say what? Did I force him to take the money? I don't get it.
So
if Sani Dara, where is the case? Look, we went to one of the guys, Kwese. He drove us away. Why? Was I putting the words into Sani Dara's mouth? He could have driven us away. When the money was being handed over to him, what stopped him from calling the police on us? He could have arrested us. So yes, Sani Dara can say whatever he wants to say. But, I know what is on the tape. And that's exactly what I put out there. I didn't say that Sani Dara didn't say the player should not train hard. He did added that, look, before you get into the national team, you have to be a very good player. We should advise the player to play very well. Then he went on further to say, but I will help. Of course, I didn't force him to say he will help. Nobody we don't arrange words and put into people's mouths. When we went to Kwese, he sacked us. So that's the first leg. Now the second leg is those who talk about entrapment and all those. Look, and with regards to Nyantechi, nobody pushed his hand to receive the money. All the NAMAX and the 25% and all the 5% and all the deals he was doing. Nobody forced him to say. In fact, the team didn't even know this detail. But he did. You understand? So you cannot come and commit crime and turn around to tell me that I have created the enabling environment for you to commit that crime. However, I'm still also open for discussions. And you see, discussions on undercover journalism started many, many years ago, 50, 60 years ago. It will still go on. People have the right to perceive. But I want to remind all of you that crime, fighting corruption, is different. Usually, the giver and the taker are all together. Anybody who has a better means of catching corrupt people should come out with it. We are prepared to interrogate and discuss as a nation so that we can push the frontiers of our democracy. We are open to such discussions. But now, I think my method is very effective. Don't forget, many people have gone to jail for those crimes that they have committed. So I do not regret for my style in journalism. I have no regrets at all. If you give me the chance tomorrow, I will do it. And honest people will still come out as honest people. You are dishonest, you are dishonest. Is it that when they are caught, so if he was not caught, then he's a good person. But when we catch you, you are not. All those who have issues, the courts are there. You can go. Look, I keep on saying that people shouldn't be accepting my journalism hook, line, and sinker. It is there to be challenged. And the law court is open for everybody. And I tell you that I'll prevail, like I've always prevailed.
Now, we cannot end this interview without addressing the big elephant in the room. A lot of attempts have been made to uncover you, to see how you actually look like. Pictures flying about on social media and across the media landscape. Now, how do you look like? We want to see how you do look like.
Well, if you want to see.
I certainly do.
This is how I look like.
So viewers, there you have it. Anas Aremeyaw Anas says, this is how he looks like. What do you think? Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Fiifi Anaman. We'll come your way again next time. Stay blessed.
Produced by AE Media.